I have wanted to make a video about my stalker situation for a very long time. The thought of making a video about it makes me a little uncomfortable. However, my stalker viewed my TikTok profile last night and now feels as good a time as any to talk about it. Treat it as a cautionary tale, if I may. To set the scene, it is 2022. I live in my hometown in a home that I own with my sister. And I frequent the grocery store a lot. And there's a new checker at the grocery store who is the older brother of one of my longtime classmates. The older brother of someone that I grew up with, no, but not someone that I know. I don't know him personally. He's just an older brother. However, one of my coworkers used to work with him at a different place of employment, and he had expressed interest in me at one point in time. And this is not someone that I would ever be interested in, and so I noted that this man, whatever you want to call him, Raya, had interest in me. So when he started working at the grocery store, I again had this note, and I just was friendly, but not overly friendly. It was not someone that I wanted to believe I had interest in them. So again, it's 2022. I had recently started dating my now fiance, and I was frequenting the grocery store. My guy didn't live here. I was there a lot, and there was one day I walked in to the grocery store and I could feel this checker's eyes. He was standing there just staring at me. So I did my business. I tried my hardest to avoid going to him, but it's a small town and he was the only line available, and I felt his eyes on me that whole time I was in the store. Just, you know, when you can feel it and you're trying not to make it obvious that you know, that was what I felt. So I end up getting my things. I go to his line, only line available, and at the end, when he went to print my receipt, he handed me one that wasn't mine, and I knew it. So I waited until I got out of the building to read it, and this was the very first note I ever got from him. It was, I think, March of 2022, I believe, and it said, "Haley, your eyes are mesmerizing. I want to know you." And then his phone number. That's so weird. Obviously I didn't text him. I tried to avoid him as much as possible after that. I would make my sister go to the grocery store with me, and it was very uncomfortable. It ruined grocery for me. I did miss a part. After the grocery store incident, I went back, and as much as I tried to avoid him, sometimes they're the only beggar. So I was bringing my sister with me, and he did confront me. He asked me why I never called him, and I said that I was in a relationship, and he was like, "We can be friends." And he got fired shortly after that, so that ties into why I never thought about him again. That being said, I ended up moving for work. I think October of that year, so October of 2022, I moved up north to the city, and I didn't think about him again. My friend that used to work with him ended up moving into my home where I was living, and she rented from me. And we had similar cars, we worked together. This is someone that I grew up with, and she's so sweet and kind, and I'm forever grateful for her. But again, she moved into my home. I did not think about this man again until June of 2023. June of 2023, I was at work, or my old job, and I left there at roughly 6:30 p.m. on a random weekday. I went to my dad's birthday party, and then I had to swing back by my work to grab something on my way back up north. I was commuting a lot. It was a crazy time for me. And when I go back, I see this garbage bag outside of the gate. So to note, my old work was like a gated facility. You had to have keys and codes to get in everywhere. So this garbage bag with a manila envelope and a brick on top was quite a wild find, and my boss was an interesting character, so I actually thought that it was something to do with him. I also worked in weeds, so I thought, well, maybe it is gang related. I don't know. So I sent my boss a video, and I was like, can I please open this bag? And he said, do not touch that. Why would you ever touch a bag? Which is really fair. And then anyway, later that week, he put on gloves, he put on a mask, and he opened this bag. And inside the manila envelope, again, that was in a plastic bag with a brick on top, were 2 notes. It said, on your mark, get ready. And then there was a red handkerchief. So again, I am thinking gang. This is something with a gang. Update. It was not something to do with the gang. We played back the cameras, and I thought, wow, that person looks really familiar. Who is that? Who could that possibly be? So I send it in my other work group chat where everybody knows everything, and I say, does anybody know who this person is? And the girl who rents from me responded. She was like, Haley, I think that's that person who has a crush on you. And I was like, what's freaking peculiar? But glad to know it's not gang related and we're not gonna get taken out. And then one of my other coworkers calls me and she says, Haley, I think I've done you a huge disservice. This person has been texting my fiance about you for weeks, asking to pass you messages saying that he has hung out with you recently and like all of these things, which again is peculiar because I didn't live in town, I didn't hang out in town, I simply worked here and was commuting. And I was thinking, well, I don't like that. I'm not seeing him at all. I have a boyfriend. And we ended up, I just made like a mental note. I was like, okay, if anything else weird happens, I will take this seriously. The one note is weird. It seems like he has this sort of infatuation, but he is progressing, so I'm not really sure how to handle it. And then I think 2 days later, the girl who rents from me calls me and she was like, Haley, I just need you to know I called the cops. My Ring camera went off at 12:30 a.m. and his name's John. John walked straight onto the porch, head up, looking at the cameras, dropped off to my door where he thought I lived, and a love note with some like dried flowers and I think a bracelet that he made. It was very creepy note. I did have to turn it over to the police, but anyway. So we called the cops and got a no trespass, and I proceeded to file for a protection order because I was thinking this person is definitely ramping up. And again, it's not someone that I've ever hung out with, it's not someone I talked to, it's not someone I ever called. Looping back, I did get the anti-harassment stalking order filed. They charged him with it and he accepted the terms. So I ended up with a 1,000-foot restraining order with no, communicating with my family, my friends, not allowed to message me, not allowed to go to my places of employment, etc. He accepted these. I joined through Zoom. I had a lot of anxiety about this. I felt really bad. I remember feeling so guilty and upset that I had to do that to someone, again, in my small town, thinking, I don't want to ruin someone's life. I'm never going to go out of my way to make it so that this person can't exist. However, I have to protect myself in case it gets worse. And at this point, we had so many things happen in such a small amount of time. I didn't know what else could happen, but I was really nervous. I started thinking, like, how am I supposed to walk to my car in the dark? How am I supposed to do these things? Like, I work here. I can't help that I need to be here. It's my home too, which is a really fair and unfortunate situation to be in. I'm running out of time, so hold on. So anyway, running it back, it's July of 2023. I get my protection order. He accepts the terms. We roll forward. Life is just normal for a bit. And suddenly, it is November of 2023, and the rain starts. And I don't know if I expressed this, but he experiences homelessness off and on. So he did some very random things. Like, he started leaving hats on the gate at the home that I own, and he started like just drinking and going by there incessantly. I think still thinking that I lived there. Me and that person that lived there had similar cars at the time, and I just think he thought that it was me. But he ended up violating the protection order. He might have done something else, but I cannot remember what he did in addition to that. He ended up going to jail, though, for breaking the protection order. And from there, one sec. Now, I am lucky that I live in a community where people know me, and a lot of people watch out for me, to include, you know, like the cops. They're making sure that I am safe, and they will patrol for me in odd hours when I could be alone, which is really, really just kind. It's nice to know that people are looking out for me. Anyway, John spent some time in jail that round. He got out, and things were pretty quiet again. I think he got out like early 2024, and by November 2024, we're back full circle. So November of 2024, John starts circling me at my place of work. He had done it once, and I didn't call the cops. I actually don't know why I didn't call the cops the first time. I think I was in shock, but I did take a photo of him. And again, through all of this, my thoughts are, don't ruin someone's life for existing. Just like, you know, watch out for you. And so when he circled me the first time, I made a note. I also talked to my friend who is a cop, and she said, unacceptable, call that in next time, which is true. So he did do it. Probably a week later, he starts circling me while I'm in a building alone. I mean, he's really circling me. I have a video. He was right next to the door. I thought he was going to come in. I have never been so shaky and just freaked out. I wasn't sure what he was going to do. So I did call the cops. They had him arrested in like 20 minutes. I watched it happen, and I thought, wow, that was crazy. So again, that's the second violation, which typically a second violation would equate to prison time. So I knew that he'd be spending time in prison this round, or I hoped that he would be spending time in prison this round. And I had really solid evidence that he was breaking it intentionally. I mean, I have videos of him like right outside a door a glass door while I'm standing there. And I was just like very distraught about this. So he goes to county jail, and while he's in county jail, he gets a jail phone. And what do you think he could have possibly done from this jail phone? Text me. How did he get my phone number? His lawyer's paperwork. What lawyer? I couldn't tell you. Texted me like 12 or 13 times. They were crazy. It didn't make any sense. It was appalling that he got my phone number in the first place. It was something I never wanted, let alone to have happened from a jail phone. So I called the cops immediately, and I said, my stalker is texting me from your jail phone. And they did have to revoke his phone privileges, and then I made the block list. So that was a little crazy. Around this time, our local newspaper wrote an article about how a local stalker was convicted again for stalking his former lover. And that did make me irate, because I'm not his lover. He already has delusions, and I did not need that to be what the public believes. That's so upsetting to me. And also bad fact checking. What do you mean you wrote an article about that? Aren't you with the newspaper? I realize I'm missing huge chunks, and that is his mental health. So during his first day in jail, he ended up going to Western State Medical Facility, and he was diagnosed with extreme delusion disorders that could not be medicated, or something along those lines. Like, medication wouldn't help him, but he was diagnosed with extreme delusion disorder. And through all of this, John believes that we have had relationships. He gets very aggressive about me and our relationship. He has these beliefs that I have met him in the night at very peculiar locations. Clearly, I have not done that. Maybe it's not clear, but it's true. I've not done that. So when he goes to jail the second time, and after he has texted me, he goes to Western State again. He goes twice this jail stay. This jail stay is a lot longer than the other one. And part of that was because John was adamant that he wanted to go to trial. He did not want to accept a plea. And the plea that they offered John was attempted stalking, which is crazy to me. And so the prosecutor has to call me to ask if that is okay. And I agreed to the terms, but they didn't explain them very well to me. They said that the only difference was roughly 2 months in jail, to which he was already serving a good chunk at county. So I didn't know if it was worth the fight. They told me that they just needed the 2 counts of stalking to land, because next time he breaks it, he will end up doing 3 to 5 years in prison, which is what we wanted. So I agreed to these terms, but not necessarily willingly. I said, that's fine, but I don't really understand why it would be attempted. Like, you have so much proof that he stalked me. He texted me from jail. I don't know what you're fighting. But they just didn't want to go to trial. They wanted him to accept the plea. So when John was denying the plea, his lawyer sent him to Western State for a competency test, I believe. And from there, he was diagnosed with more delusion disorders. Yeah. So like a week before trial, so this would have been last year, 2025, John accepted the plea, and he went to prison for like a month after that. And in that, I went to court that time. That was actually the only time I've gone to court through all of our hearings. And I wrote a letter to the judge that was like true to me. It's like, how am I supposed to accept that these things happened to me? How am I supposed to accept that the jail can let me down and that lawyers can let me down and give my information or not already have me on that safety list? How am I supposed to accept that I live in a community that I'm an active member of, but this person who is nothing can throw me for a loop like that and change how I have to live my life? How am I supposed to feel safe when I go to work? How am I supposed to feel anything? How am I supposed to raise a family and have a partner who feels comfortable in my community when there is someone who actively believes these delusions? And it is really, really, really hard. But I did write that letter. The judge read it publicly. I mean, his mom and his sister were in the court. And it's just, it's so disheartening to experience it over and over and over again. And ultimately, I put in there, like, when this happens again, we'll talk about it again, because I don't see how it doesn't happen another time. And in his off seasons of jail, so say like 2023 and 2024, he gets on Facebook and he writes these crazy posts just talking about his life and the things he believes. And it's hard to not want to know what someone's thinking when they're unwell, because how are you supposed to gauge what they're doing in their life and how that's going to affect you if you don't know what they're doing? Yeah. So anyway, he got out of jail in 2025, and he has been just not menacing, but he's around. So currently my stalker's out of jail. He is actively on Facebook making crazy posts. I did have to block him, well, as one should. I didn't think he used TikTok. This is an unwell person in his mid-30s who barely uses Facebook, so I didn't anticipate that TikTok would be something I needed to monitor, but I do try to keep my life kind of private, so regretfully, I have posts about my life on here, and I hope you didn't see any of them. That being said, I am still actively dealing with this. He goes down rabbit holes, just sucked into delusion. I accidentally ran into him a couple weeks ago at trivia. He walked in, picked up a transient woman and her trash bags of stuff from the local bar, where he's trespassed from. Like, he's not even supposed to be there. But he walked in, grabbed his stuff. He did see me. I didn't think he did, but he circled like 4 times after I left. We called the cops, and then he's been frequently going there ever since, I think, hoping that he would run into me, even though he has to turn around and get away ASAP if he comes near me. It's just crazy. I don't know a lot of people who have experiences like this, and honestly, I saw someone post this morning about their stalker incident and how they had not received help from the courts, and like, I can't relate to that. I have had people take me really seriously, which is really, really great, but at the same time, even this last, court case, it was like, it didn't go as well for me as I'd hoped. Even with him being charged with that 2 counts of stalking, because they used the word attempted, he didn't qualify for DOC time, and he didn't qualify for those mental health checks that he had been, what's the word? Charged with? Sentenced with? The judge sentenced him to those things, understanding that the parameters for DOC time fit in there. However, our prosecutor was wrong when they presented that option, so he didn't qualify at all, having been given those charges. So I actually had to take a meeting with the prosecutor and tell him that that was unacceptable, and in the future I would not be taking a lesser plea simply because they want to make it easier. I would just go to trial. It's like, I'm fighting nothing. And all of that to say, be safe out there. Don't be nice to people. I don't know what else to say.
Story time about how I found out that I was being cheated on. First of all, please be nice, because I never post stuff like this, but honestly, it was so entertaining and I literally laugh about it now, so I feel like I should share. So for context, I started seeing this guy in October, and by January we were dating, and we were only dating for 2 weeks before I found this all out. So thankfully I found out early and got myself the hell out of there. But anyways, let's get into it. So the day that this all went down, I had clinical that day because I'm in nursing school, and he was supposed to be coming over to my house after I finished clinical. So of course I text him when I get out of clinical, and I'm like, hey, just let me know like whenever you're gonna come over. So long story short, I get home, I don't hear from him for like 3 hours, and I'm like, what's going on? I check his location and I see that he's out to dinner. So I text him again and I'm like, hey, like, are you still coming over tonight? So after a little while, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna call him because maybe he's not checking his phone, and like I want to know if he's coming over, because at this point it was like 9 or 10 o'clock and he was supposed to be sleeping over, mind you. So I call him, and much to my surprise, a girl answers the phone. Perfect. She says, hello. I said, hello. She said, who is this? I said, we're gonna call him Chad. This is Chad's girlfriend. Who is this? She hangs up the phone. And I'm not exaggerating, like that is how that girl talked. And she literally sounded like she was no older than 19 or 20. And keep that in mind because that's important. Mind you, my boyfriend was 26. And normally I would literally never be mad at the girl in this situation, because obviously like if she didn't know that he had a boyfriend, like that's not her fault, but just wait. So anyways, after that happens, I naturally call him back 30 times, you know, as any sane woman would do, and he doesn't answer. I'm like looking at his location, he's like driving somewhere, and then he ends up at a house. Long story short, he ends up driving back home, and once he's home, that's when he calls me back. And obviously I'm like, where were you? What is going on? Why did a girl answer your phone? Like, what is happening? When I tell you, this man answered the phone so nonchalantly, like absolutely nothing was wrong. Like, hey babe, what's up? So he answers, he tells me, oh my god, I'm so sorry. We ended up going to my friend's bachelor party, which I honestly didn't think anything of, because he told me that his friend's bachelor party was this weekend and he didn't know if he was gonna go or not. So he says, yeah, we ended up going. Everything just got so out of hand. Like, I got so drunk, I had to leave my car in the parking lot of the restaurant. Mind you, this man is like slurring his words, like sounds very, very intoxicated. But in my mind, I was like, it almost sounds like he's like faking being drunk. And then he says that his friend, we'll call him Justin had to drive him home with Justin's girlfriend. And he says that Justin's girlfriend is the one who answered his phone when I called. Remember when I told you that the girl that answered sounded like she was 19? Yeah, well, Justin's girlfriend is 27. So I was like, that's not adding up. Like, that girl did not sound like she was 27. And like, you could so tell that this girl was young. So he says, babe, to reassure you, let me get Justin on the phone so that he can tell you. Mind you, I have met Justin before. So Justin gets on the phone and he's like, hey, what's going on? Chad, my boyfriend at the time, is like, oh, like, can you just tell Ella that, like, we were together, like, she's confused and she doesn't believe that your girlfriend's the one who answered the phone. Justin sold the story so well, like, I had no reason to believe that he was lying. And Justin's telling me, oh my god, all Chad can do is talk about you, like, he likes you so much, you have nothing to worry about. And Justin says, oh, and I've heard you make amazing banana bread. And mind you, my contact in his phone was Ella Banana Bread. And that was just like an inside joke, like it's whatever. But that was my contact name in his phone. Remember that. Anyways, him and I worked things out. We're like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna go to bed. Like, I will see you tomorrow. And this is where things start to get interesting. The next morning, I wake up at 6 a.m. with a text from this girl. And it is a screenshot from a very specific Facebook page that if you know what it is, you know what it is. And the girl's like, hey, isn't this your boyfriend? And guess who it was? It was Chad. So, the girl that he went on a date with the night before, because yes, he was on a date, he was not in the car with his friend and his girlfriend, she posted on this Facebook page and said, went on a date with this guy last night and some girl named Ella Banana Bread was blowing up his phone the whole night while I was making out with him. And at this point, I was like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. So I quickly get on Facebook. I was not in this group at the time, but I was like, I have to get into this group and see this thread that's going on. Long story short, after messaging like 10 of the admins, I finally get admitted to the group. And when I tell you, the thread that this girl had posted had like over 200 comments in it. Some of the comments were like hating on this girl for doing that because like, why were you continuing to make out with a guy when you had a feeling that he had a girlfriend? And the other comments were from other women saying, oh my gosh, I've had experiences with this guy. Saying, yeah, he was hitting me up to come over to his house this week. Like all sorts of stuff. It was crazy. And all the comments are like, where's Ella Banana Bread? We gotta find Ella Banana Bread. So I comment on it and I say, hey guys, Ella Banana Bread here. This man was my boyfriend as of last night. He is no longer. And after I commented on that, I start getting DMs from girls, like multiple girls saying, hey, like he was at my house or he was hitting me up this week. He told me he loved me this week. I'm sorry, what? So anyways, now that I have this all confirmed, I'm like, okay, it's time to plot. It is time to plot. And unfortunately, someone tipped him off that I had seen the Facebook post, so I wasn't able to plot. Very sad. And I go to look at his location and I see that he has unshared it with me. So I'm like, okay, he knows that I know. So at this point, I was like, you know what? I just want to get all my feelings out and say everything that I want to say. Mind you, for context, this man literally begged me to be his girlfriend. Begged me. Like, he had to ask me multiple times. I said no multiple times. And then finally, I was like, okay, like, whatever, fine. So I'm like, why did you beg to be my boyfriend just to cheat on me? It's not making sense. Anyways, so I call him, I go off on him. There was like another piece of the story that I cannot share, but it was really, really bad and I had to call him and like talk to him about it. So yeah, that's basically the story of how I found out I was being cheated on, and honestly, like, it's funny. It's funny. Especially because I was like not super invested in the first place. Like, it's genuinely just funny because what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Anyways, I say this all because as a woman, you should absolutely always, always, always trust your gut. Like, we literally have a sixth sense that is like our intuition and it tells us when things are off. And I knew from the absolute moment that I met this man that there was something off with him, and I continued on and I ignored it so many times. And this just all could have been avoided if I had just listened to my gut.
Get ready with me while I tell you about some roommate drama. Okay, so this is not exactly my roommate drama. It's my fiance's brother's roommate drama, and it's just kind of a crazy story, and I'd love to hear some opinions on it. So my fiance's brother, his name is Joe. He lives in a really nice house type situation. It has a beautiful backyard with a lemon tree. They have a grill, a smoker. They're always hosting people, having people over. It's just a really great place to live. And he lives there with two people, Jack, and we'll call this guy Andrew. So Andrew is the issue, if you will. He is really funny. And not funny haha, funny weird. So he sucks as a roommate, first of all. Like, he's really gross. He doesn't clean up after himself. His room smells really bad. He like will eat a bunch of food in there and then not take the plates out. And like whenever he opens the door, it's like gross. Most recently he like went on a trip, and so Joe was like, I'm gonna have people over, just letting you know, we're gonna have dinner here. And Andrew collects all of the dirty dishes that he had accumulated in his room and brings them out, puts them in the sink, and then heads out for the airport. He had to wash the dishes in order to cook dinner for the people he was having over. Like stuff like that. He just like doesn't think, and he is just a really bad roommate. But everyone gave him a pass because they all considered him their friend. We'll put up with your weird behavior because we like you as a person, whatever. One thing about him though is he's kind of phony. Like, I've never really liked him because he like says things that people want to hear. He's not like a real person, if that makes any sense. And he lies a lot. My favorite example, and this was the moment that I realized I want nothing to do with this guy. Like, Joshua, he can be your friend, but I don't want to be anywhere near him. Basically, we were in Napa, we were just drinking some wine, and we were telling stories about how we passed our driver's test or whatever. And this guy says that, oh, I have like -6 vision, and I was able to pass my driving test without any contacts or glasses. I have -6 vision. I can't see 2 inches in front of my face without contacts or glasses. So I was like, no, you didn't. You didn't pass your driver's test with that vision without any corrective lenses. And he's like, yes, I did. Wouldn't back down. Just kept sticking to the story. Like, all right, whatever. I'll let you have it. But I don't like you. I don't like you. Something about you is off. Anyway, so this guy, he just lies a lot like that. But usually it's just stuff that doesn't matter. So nobody like really calls him out on it or like cares too much. So here's where the chisme comes in. So Joshua's brother had been seeing this girl on and off, and one day we go over, specifically St. Patrick's Day, we went over for a St. Patrick's Day party, and this girl was just in the backyard. Like, she was there. Mind you, she doesn't live in California, she lives across the country. So it was like, oh, me and my fiance, we started gossiping. We're like, is that gonna be my sister-in-law? Like, what is she doing out here? Are they back together? Anyway, she was over for the weekend, and so my fiance and his brother work at the same company. So he was just curious, and we love to chit chat, and he checks his brother's calendar to see if he had taken any days off to hang out with this girl. And he did. But while he's in the system, he's like, oh, let me check out my other friend's calendar to see like how they're doing. Andrew also works at this company, and he checks his calendar, and it says left 8 weeks ago. And he comes home and he talks to me. He's like, hey, did I miss something? Like, did Andrew leave the company, say something? And I just like was tuning him out and I didn't listen. And I was like, no, that's really weird. So we literally go to an event that night with Joe, Andrew, Jack, everyone's there. We're at this event, and we're like, hey, did you know that Andrew doesn't work at this company anymore? He was like, that's so funny, because literally today he woke me up at 6 a.m. to move my car so he could go down to South Bay to, like go to work. So this guy has just been like actively lying about having this job. Which is one thing, like, we get it. The market's bad, like, you lose your job, whatever. Just be honest with your roommates, like, tell them the truth. Don't actively lie about it. But it became this thing where every time we would see him, we'd be like, hey, how's work? And he would just lie. He said, oh, work's been great. Like, I went down to the office today, like this, and this. He would like make up these stories. And so, of course, we were just like seeing how far he was going to go with it, because like no one's going to call him out on it until it matters. But anyway, he does this thing again. He wakes up Joe at 6 a.m. and is like, hey, I have to go down to work today. Can you please move your car? So Joe gets up. He goes down to confront him, and he's like, hey, I know you don't work there anymore. Why are you making me do this? And Andrew's basically like, I just don't think that we're close enough for me to tell you the truth about certain things. Like, it doesn't really sound like that big of a deal, but it is just so funny. He just says stuff that doesn't make any sense. And we have another friend, in the friend group, and she basically like confronted Joe, and she was like, hey, you've got to stop being so mean to him. Like, you know, he's really stressed out. Like, even though he lied about like not having a job, you do know that he pays his mom's mortgage and pays for everything for his mom. So he's just really stressed out. And we're all just like, have you considered that he's lying? Have you considered that he actually doesn't pay for his parents' mortgage? Because why would he? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, for example, he has season tickets to the University of Texas football games, and those aren't cheap, and they're under his dad's name. So his dad has enough money to pay for these football tickets, but not enough money to help his wife with the mortgage, and you think he's paying for his mom's mortgage? Like, no, he lies. He lies about so much. And anyway, so Joe and Jack basically texted him and were like, hey, we don't really want to live with you anymore. You're, first of all, not a good roommate, and we were willing to overlook that if you were our friend, but like, you clearly don't think that we're friends because you lie about stuff to us, so we just like don't want to live with you anymore. And he basically just like starts crashing out on them and is like, well, you guys talk shit about me. We're 25. We're 25, and they haven't said anything that like they wouldn't say to his face. I don't know, it's just so weird. It's so weird, and I'm so excited for the update, but I wanted to share because I just think it's a crazy story. Also, do I uninvite this guy from my wedding? I never liked him. I never wanted him there. He was only invited because he was friends with all these people that we have coming from California to go to our wedding. So I don't know. I think that's so funny. Yeah. Advice. Be great. Anyway, as I'm like finishing up my hair, I'm just like thinking about other weird shit that he would do. He would like volunteer for different events, like alumni events, and then just wouldn't show up. Joe one time was like talking about how Andrew got a girlfriend and she started spending the night at their apartment, and because she started spending the night, now there was 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom that they share. So before he got a girlfriend, there was just Joe's toothbrush, and Andrew never had a toothbrush in the bathroom. Just stuff like that. Would constantly eat their food and drink their wine, and it's not like it's cheap wine. Like, they're going to Napa and they're getting some nice bottles, and they would just disappear. They would disappear. He'd be the only one who had access to them, and they'd ask, hey, who drank that? And he would just lie. Like, just be honest, you know? You can't do much with a liar. You can only give so much grace. I primarily want to know because he's the type of guy to RSVP yes and then not show up. And he's done this before where he'll like have one of us like change the date of an event we're throwing because he can't make it and then not show up anyway. So yeah, I'm thinking it's highly likely that he doesn't show up to my wedding, which is really expensive, and I'd be really pissed, but I'm excited. I'm going over for game night tonight, so I'll get the update and let you know.
Stories about how I got touched back in my country. So this was back in 2022 when I had gone back to my country, and if you know anything about going back to countries, you know that it is so sketch out there. So basically, we had gone for like a month-long trip, okay? And the last 2 days, me and my mom, we were just trying to shop for our family members, you know, trying to get souvenirs in. The whole trip, it was me, my parents, and my uncle. And my uncle and my dad were low-key like my bodyguard. I was 13 and I had like my uncle and my dad, like my personal bodyguards. So the whole trip, they were always by my side, low-key scaring the huzz away. But they were like just by my side the entire time. But the last 2 days that me and my mom wanted to go shopping, they miraculously somehow caught a stomach flu. And they were low-key like shitting themselves, like dead ass. So me and my mom were like, okay, let's just go by ourselves. Like, let's just grab a little bit of stuff and get the freak back home. So my mom was in the store and she was shopping for like my aunts and stuff, okay? She's shopping for clothes. And I was done with shopping. Like, I was like, can we just go back? So I was like, I'm just gonna stay outside the store, okay? So my mom goes in, she's shopping, and I'm waiting outside. And when I'm alone, I think I have really good, like, I'm very aware of my surroundings. But when I have someone there with me, like my dad, like, I'm like, la, 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 you know what I'm saying? So I was very, like, don't get me. Like, I was like, you know? And as I'm, like, scoping out the scenery, I see these, like, group of schoolboys, okay? Oh, my God. I see these group of schoolboys. They were in, like, a group of, like, 6.
But yeah, they were in like a group of 6, and they just kept looking at me, and I was like, oh my god. But I did not want to play the main character. I was like, Priya, you is not the main character, girl. Like, these people do not want you. I was like, stop being so self-centered. So I was like, okay, like, they're probably not even looking at me, okay? So I was like, whatever. So my mom finishes at the store, okay? My mom finishes at the store, and she's like, okay, let's go to that store. So I'm like, okay. So I follow her, okay? I follow her, la 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 la. I turn around. The schoolboys are literally following us. I was like, oh, hell no. So I'm like, okay, let's pick up the pace. So I'm like, we're like walking faster. Okay. And my freaking mom, she stops at another store. Oh my god. Not even like 3 feet, okay? Like so she's like, just wait out here, I'll be really quick. And I'm like, bro, like when you come out here, I'm not gonna be out here. Like, what the freak are you on? So she gets in the store, and I'm waiting there. I'm like, I need to find some sort of safety, okay? So I go to this like stall. I go to this stall where they were like, you know, street food. So I was like, I'm hanging out near the stall. The guys, they're like on the other side of the stall now, okay? And they're in their group, and I can hear them like whispering and like, and I'm like, oh my god. And one of the guy, he comes around to my side, okay? He comes around to my side, and oh my god, hold my hand. He's like asking like the guy at the like the street food. He's like, oh, like, does your food have like he's just asking stupid shit, okay? And I'm like waiting there, and I shit you not, he like graces his hand on my ass cheek. I was like, that's it. Like, I'm gonna be on the news. I was like, I'm gonna be on the news. I'm done. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like scooching. I'm like, ah! I kid you not. He goes to sniff. What the? So after he does that, I think it was like a signal or something. I don't even know. Okay. Then they all start coming over, and I'm literally about to like fly away because I'm so scared. And mind you, this is my first time ever going back to my country. Okay, so I'm already like, so they all come over, and they're all, and it's super crowded in that area. Okay, so like I'm like being pushed left and right, and I'm like, I don't know what to do because I'm just such a petite, skinny queen. And they all come over. Okay, and at this point, I'm low-key being touched everywhere. Like, oh my god, I can't. I'm being touched everywhere, but like I don't like, because it was so crowded in that area, I didn't know who was touching me where, okay? So I'm being touched left and right, and it's not like a quick touch, it's like a full graze. And I'm like, what the actual, and I'm still like scooching, okay? I'm still moving, like I'm still moving, okay? Then, oh my god, it got really bad, okay? It got really bad. Then one of the guys fully goes in for a coochie grab. He fully coochie grabs me. I'm laughing, but it wasn't funny. Stop laughing. Why are you laughing? He goes in for a full coochie grab. I was like, that's when I had to say something. So I turn around, and I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, what? You know, like oblivious. And I'm like, you just touched me. And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, we can really play. I don't play. So I was like, okay, we can really play. So what I'm about to tell you, I'm not very proud of it, but it had to be done in that moment, okay? So I'm like, okay, we can play these games. We can play. So I turn around, and I'm facing them now, okay? And like, we're still being squished because, you know, people are trying to get in and get their food. It's not funny. I like when I see the chance, when I see the moment, I take my hand and I punch the guy's butt. I get a good hit, and out of nowhere he goes, no! And all his friends like, what happened? And then I walked away. But before I walked away, I made sure to get another hit on another guy. So as I'm walking, I was like, and I walked away. And the other one was like, oh! And I walked away like the queen I am. But it's also crazy to me how, like, there was people, like, around me that were seeing all this happen, and no one was doing anything. Like, what the heck? Ew, like, ugh.
I'm a high schooler who lives at a boarding school. Here are some things that I am not fond of as a high schooler who lives at a boarding school. Things that I really don't like sometimes, and things that kind of make me wish I didn't come. if you haven't been here before, go ahead and give me a follow, a like, and a share, please, if you can, and comment down below what your favorite flower is. You don't have to put a picture, just comment the name, okay? But anyways, so I came here this year. This is my first year, right? And also, don't mind my face. People are gonna call me blush blonde and stuff, but I'm actually doing theater makeup. Theater is one of the things I love about here, but the workload here is really, really tough. That is something that a lot of people will not talk to you about. They will not really tell you about. Like, they'll tell you, oh yeah, it's hard sometimes. I'm taking 11 classes. 11. Okay? 11. And it's rough, babe. It's definitely rough. It's not like oh, this is, we get to lollygag all the time and like we have all these privileges and we can go places. No, it's not. Another thing is privilege levels. Privilege levels drive me up the wall, okay? Because it's so dumb to me. If you don't have a certain privilege level here, you cannot drive. You cannot go out with your friends. If you don't have a certain privilege level here, you cannot, you don't have liberties, basically, babe. Literally at our matriculation, which is where they sign your name into a big book of everybody who's ever attended this school before, they literally call it signing your soul away, is what everybody here calls it. When you get here, you'll hear the seniors make fun of the newcomers and be like, oh, look, matriculation's coming up, get ready to sign your soul away, because it's you don't have any liberties anymore, and it's just a kind of almost imprisonment, Another thing is room check. So every Monday night, they come into your room and they check it to see if, it is up to standard or whatever. You can, if you have the privilege level, here we go with privilege levels again, you can skip it. Also, it's a thing of privilege levels dictate, everything. Not only where you can drive and stuff, but also, they'll have taco bars or ice cream bars or waffle bars. We had one of those one time, where only people with a privilege level 4, which is the highest you can get, and it's very hard to maintain. I had one my first semester here and I lost it, and it's insanely hard to get back. You would have to have a 4, it's just really hard to get back. And so they'll have things like that, and only people with the right privilege levels can attend or can do the certain things. You are not allowed to if you don't have that privilege level, and if you get caught doing them when you don't have that privilege level, you will in fact get an infraction. Now, I know my lip color is washing me out and all the things, but I'm about to put stuff over it, and also this is for our theater performance because I'm a poor person, so don't hate on me, hate on your mama, okay? Thank you. Anyways, so next one. Some of the professors here be crazy. Not gonna lie. Not crazy. That's really the wrong way to word it. Some people are just, it's kind of like college. All of our people are doctors and all the things, so they have really high expectations. And sometimes when you don't meet those expectations, it makes you feel really down on yourself because you're oh, I could have done better. I could have been smarter, or things like that. And also, it's really hard coming here. People don't talk about that. It's really hard coming here because when you're at your old school, you were the smartest, right? And you get recognized for being super, super smart. When you come here, everybody's smart. Everybody's the best and the brightest, okay? So it's it's an adjustment because it's oh, I'm not the star pupil anymore. Everybody here has an ACT of 30 or higher. When I got here, I had an ACT score of 25. It was just crazy. But shout out to the people at my old school. If you're watching, thank you, Maddie, too, for saying that I had flawless bass, because I heard about that. But yeah, anyways, all the people at my old school, overall, I would absolutely never go back to my old school. My old school was so underfunded, so horrible. I literally had a counselor tell me one time that I would never graduate with my associate's degree, and guess what I'm about to do next year? Graduate with that associate's degree. Yep. Anyways, but, no. It's definitely different when you come here, but I don't regret it for the world. Let me know if you would like me to do more of these, because there are definitely some things that I could probably name, and I could probably even do collabs with other people who go here, because there are definitely some things that are a little off when you first get here, and you really have to adjust to, and a lot of people even go home their first semester. So if you want more, just let me know. Alright, and that is all, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. And that's all. I love you guys. See you later.
Woke up early for therapy just to find an email from my therapist canceling on me last minute, but baby girl said, yeah, it's Swiftmas morning. You literally have therapy tonight. Taylor Swift is coming out with an album. You don't need to talk to me.
When I'm asked why I'm no contact with one side of my family, it brings me back to the dreaded beach vacation that I have never talked about on here. To give you a backstory, I am the oldest grandchild on both sides, and I'm the only granddaughter on both sides. And the side that we're going to be talking about, I do have 2 younger cousins who are both boys, significantly younger than I am. So when I was about 10 years old, my family, this side, would take a beach vacation every single year, without fail, every year. And most of the time, it was Topsail Island, North Carolina. Well, this year comes around, and my mom finds out that they're planning on taking my cousins, both of them, who were at the age were like 3 and 1, or maybe 4 and 2. They're very, very close in age. Keep in mind, I'm like 10. I'm older. I'm still young, but I'm older. I never got invited. We lived one house apart, so on the day that they were meant to leave, I had to watch them pack into the vehicle and leave. Mind you, I was always a throwaway grandchild. They didn't give a shit about me. They made it very obvious in Christmas gifts and things like that. They would buy the boys big $100 Christmas gifts, and then I'd get shit from the dollar store. I knew what I was. But nonetheless, seeing that hurt, and it hurt me for years, and I would occasionally bring it up and be like, well, you know, you guys took them on a vacation. I never got to go. Like, I've still, at this point, never been to the beach. I turned 17, and I'm in a abusive relationship living in Pineville, West Virginia. And I get a text message from my aunt one day, and she's like, hey, we wanted to know if you wanted to go to the beach with us. And in my mind, I was like, okay, first of all, I've never been to the beach. I get to see the beach. And number 2, this will help me get away from this abusive relationship, because I was essentially being held hostage. Like, he would not let me leave, and nobody in my family had the means to come and get me, or just wasn't willing to. So I say yes. I convinced the guy, hey, take me home. I'm going to go to the beach. And I ended up going back to my mom's house, and then they were to pick me up the next morning to go to the beach. And we were going to go to Virginia Beach. I get there, my mom hands me $200. She's like, I asked them what you need to take to the beach. They said, give you $200. And I'm automatically suspicious. I'm like, where did this money come from? But I never really questioned it. I thought maybe, you know, they had just done something to get me the money, because no party here had a job. We take off to the beach, and I learned that we're going to be staying in a camper. Cool, no issue. Except for the fact that they brought 5 Boston Terriers to stay with us in the camper. So it was my grandma and her boyfriend, my aunt and her boyfriend, me, and 5 dogs. So we get to Virginia Beach, day 1. We go to the campground, and automatically, my grandma hates it. This was the first time I'd ever seen the beach. It was the best thing in the world to me. But she walks onto the beach, and for reasons I will not even get into because they're so fucking disgusting, she's like, I don't want to be here. I want to go to Topsail Island. So after driving, I think it's 8 hours or 10 hours from West Virginia to Virginia Beach, we now had to drive from Virginia Beach to Topsail Island. Finally, we arrived at Topsail Island, and they keep picking the most expensive restaurants they can find to eat. Mind you, they had told my mother I only needed $200. One of the restaurants they picked that I vividly remember was Joe's Crab Shack. And I think the cheapest thing on the menu at that time for Joe's Crab Shack was like $23, and it was literally a chicken strip basket. They were eating seafood bowls, which is cool. I don't like seafood. But they kept picking these expensive restaurants, plus the fact that I had to chip in for snacks and had to bring my own, hygiene. I was running out of money, and very, very fast. A night comes where my aunt and her boyfriend were like, we're going to go take a walk on the beach. I had never seen the beach at nighttime. Where we were staying at Virginia Beach, you couldn't see the beach at nighttime. We weren't even at the beach. We were at a campground that was like 2 miles from the beach or something. The campground we were staying at was on the beach, but you had the big dunes, so you couldn't be at the camper or at the campground and see the ocean. You couldn't see the beach. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll come with y'all. And I went down there with them, but I let them stay, like 50 feet ahead of me, 100 feet ahead of me. That way they had their privacy, but I still got to experience being down there, and I was scared to be down there by myself anyway. As I'm walking back, mind you, I'm behind them, there's a mud puddle in front of like the campground office or whatever. And I look down, and there's a pair of Under Armour sunglasses in the mud puddle, and the water was still moving. So I pick them up, and I'm like, oh, okay, these must be my aunt's boyfriend's glasses. I walk into the camper, I hand them to him, and I'm like, hey, these were in the mud puddle outside. I assumed that they are yours. Nothing was ever said about this. My grandma comes out of the bathroom absolutely fucking raging. And she's like, you were supposed to stay with the dogs. I told you to stay with the dogs. You needed to stay with the dogs. Mind you, 5 Boston Terriers. None of them are mine. And I had never been told I needed to stay with these dogs. She had literally never mentioned to me that she needed to take a shower, so she needed me to stay with the dogs. Absolutely never. But in her mind, she did. And if you know anything about my grandmother, severely fucking bipolar. So again, I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I take a shower every single night that I'm there. When I eat a snack, I clean it up. I didn't eat anything out of control, out of proportion, anything. Well, within 2 days of us being there, I had severe sunburn, and they woke me up. No joke, 6 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, we're going to go down to the beach. And I'm like, I don't really want to go to the beach. Well, they told me, they were like, well, you're not staying here in the camper by yourself, which I thought was fucking weird. So from like 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 to 8 at night, they just wanted to be on the beach. And mind you, I'm already severely sunburned. They dragged me down there. No snacks, no drinks, can't go back to the camper. I'm just on the beach all fucking day, and I end up looking like a baked potato. Like, I'm so burnt and so miserable. I can't even wear a bikini top because one of the places I was burnt was like right here along that line. The remainder of my trip goes this same exact way. I am continuously getting attacked by one of the dogs they decided to bring because she had an obsession with humping people, and if you didn't let her do it, she decided she was going to tear you apart. Being bitched at for things that were not in my control. I ran out of money. They started punishing me because I was out of money because I couldn't afford to eat and they had to pick up the bill or whatever. All in all, trip was fucking terrible. Now, at this time, what I didn't know was that the abusive ex who I had been living with prior to me going also went to a beach. I didn't tell him what beach I was going to, didn't talk to him the entire fucking trip. He ended up at Myrtle Beach. I, at this point, was at Virginia and then Topsail Island. So we were not even on the same beach. Not even close. I get back from the trip. I ended up never going back to his house, obviously. My aunt had went and picked up the stuff. But my grandma immediately goes off and is telling everyone that I made this trip absolute hell. She says that I told this man what beach we were at, so he came to the beach. We were not on the same beach. Nowhere even near the same beach. He went to a beach, probably looking for me, but he didn't find me because he was not at the beach. Told my mom that I had been eating snacks and hiding the wrappers behind my bed instead of putting them in the trash. Told her I did not shower for 5 to 7 days while we were there, which if you've been to the beach, you know is fucking impossible because you get sand in every nook and cranny that you have. Told her that I stole from my aunt's boyfriend. Remember how I said I found his glasses in the puddle and took them back to him? Yeah, those were $200 sunglasses, which are Under Armour, and I stole them from him. I said, if I would have stole them, why the fuck would I give them back? I was not helpful throughout the entire vacation. I was blowing money on things I didn't need. Mind you, the only thing I actually bought for myself as a souvenir while on these trips was a Joe's Crab Shack shirt, and I think I bought a beach hat, but neither one of those was expensive. We ended up in a whole blowout over it, like the whole family, because you could have just not invited me. Like, if your whole goal was for me to be a dog sitter and not to enjoy my trip, I would have rather just stay home. The second part to this story, though, is come to find out the $200 that my mother had given me, my father had paid her or given her $1,200, and she gave me $200 and then used the rest on her and her boyfriend, and I didn't find out about it until a year later. So the $200 that I was given to survive on at the beach, which I could have actually survived had she gave me $400, yeah, she wouldn't even give me $400 of my money. She gave me $200. That was just the tip of the iceberg and what started to make me detach from this family and be like, I'm not welcome here. I'm not wanted here. Like, this shouldn't have been the case. Obviously, they didn't have anybody else to watch the dogs. They couldn't leave the dogs at home. They didn't want to take the dogs and then the dogs be in the camper by themselves while they went out and did couple shit. So they invited me because I was the grandchild that was oldest and most responsible that could watch the fucking dogs. I've always been a burden to them, and that is why I am 5 years no contact, and I do not regret a single fucking day of it. Oh, also the guy who I was living with at the time is now in prison for being a P3DO and a repeat offender. Mind you, I was 17 and he was probably 24. And his own family came out and testified that they watched this man bite me on multiple different occasions and try to break the windows out of his mother's house because his mom had to drag me in the house to get me away from him one night because he would not leave me alone. But yeah, I definitely invited him to the beach.
This is going to be the most niche video I've ever made, okay? Did anyone else's older sister, when you guys were younger, when she would get on the phone with a boy, her voice would drastically change? She would be yelling at me like, seriously, get out of my face, like, stop, I'm on the phone.
I have a procedure tomorrow. I'm trying to ignore it, so I'm going to give you another story because that story was not even the tip of the iceberg. So when I was about 11 years old, my parents had been married for 15 or 17 years, and they decided that they were going to get a divorce. Shortly after, like a couple months after, my dad had already moved out and everything, my mom starts getting this very severe pain in her stomach one night. She gets rushed to the hospital. I go with her, and that's when we were told that her appendix had ruptured, like they had burst, and that she had to have emergency surgery, but I couldn't stay in the hospital with her, which meant I had to have somewhere to go for like 3 or 4 days and didn't know where I was going to go. Now, this is where things get a little murky because I can't remember exactly where I went first, but I want to say my mom's best friend and her husband, who I had been raised around essentially, they had a daughter that was 6 months younger than me, and that was my best friend from birth until high school. I was very comfortable around these people, very used to these people. I want to say they came and got me from the hospital, but I was only able to stay with them for one night because I believe they had something that they had to do. So then they drove me across the mountain and dropped me off to my father's mom. I'm also no contact with her. My relationship with her is something completely different. She ended up marrying my grandfather's best friend and her cousin's husband very shortly after both of them passed away. He proposed to her on the day my grandfather died a year later. Like, very messed up situation. Very overly religious, and her husband was mean. So I stayed with them for a night until I was told that the next day they were going to leave me with this random neighbor who I did not know. Some older lady, I guess, and her husband didn't know these people, wasn't comfortable with that situation. I had severe anxiety as a kid, so no. I called my mom crying. Of course, I'm stressing my mom out. My mom's already in the hospital. She's like, I'll figure it out. I'll find somewhere else for you to go. In comes the grandmother from the beach story. I had never stayed all night with her. She had never kept me for any extended amount of time. She had never, like, spent time one-on-one with me, really. And she always had a record of trying to push me off. Like, she kept my younger cousin when he was about 3 months old for 2 or 3 months at a time because my aunt had really bad postpartum depression. So she went to Indiana and got him and brought him home with her. And he literally lived with her. But she had never kept me overnight. So I'm stuck in this little middle bedroom. My grandmother's house is very old. It used to be an old candy store, I believe. And half of the house my grandpa actually built onto it. My grandma and my grandpa were also divorced. Well, I'm in the middle bedroom, and to get to my aunt's room or my grandma's room, you walk through the middle bedroom, and then to get to my aunt's room, you just walk into this room. To get to my grandma's room, you have to walk through my aunt's room. So it's like walk through this room, walk through this room, walk through this room, then you're in my grandma's room. The whole time I had to stay there, I knew I was not wanted there. She didn't want to give me the password to the internet. She didn't want to let me wash clothes. She acted like it was a burden for me to have to shower. And I remember her acting like she didn't even really want to fix dinner when I was there. I remember standing up in front of the bed one night, or one day. It was probably like 7 o'clock in the evening. And I don't remember what I was doing, but it was like normal kid shit. You know, I'm like 11. I was probably doing something stupid, and she screamed at me and immediately calls my mom, and she's like, you're gonna have to figure something else out. She can't stay here. I can't do this. My nerves aren't made for this. This was not the first time I've ever heard my grandma say that, like, I couldn't be at her house or whatever. I was raised, you never open my grandma's refrigerator or her cabinets. Never. You did not walk in her house. You knocked on the door. You couldn't just walk through areas of her house. Like, there was a bathroom in the back. Never, ever were you allowed to go through the dining room into the back area. And when I was 3, I had walked down to my grandma's house because I was allowed to do that because we lived one house apart. And they asked me if I wanted to have dinner with them. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay, well, go ask your mom. I went and asked my mom. Mom was like, yeah. So I went down there, and I still remember this to this day. They handed me a cheeseburger on a plate and was like, okay, you can go home and eat. And that broke my heart because I thought they were actually going to spend time with me. So I went back up the alley, like, crying. My mom was like, what's wrong? And I was like, they gave me my food and told me to go home. And that made my mom mad, so my mom called them. They denied doing it. And Mom was like, so what'd she do? Just messle her up some tears? Like, when I say my entire life, they did not give a shit if I was around or not, I mean that. I mean to the point where I got locked in the psychiatric ward. And it just so happened I got locked up on the day of my aunt's birthday, and they said that I did it because I wanted to ruin her birthday, and then continued to have a whole family get-together and birthday party while I was in the psych ward. But when the same thing happened with my younger cousin, when he got out, they threw him a birthday or a coming home party. a whole party just because he got out of the psych ward. What did I get? Told that I was stupid and that I was selfish. Also, the whole time I was in there, nobody called me. Nobody wrote me a note. Nobody wrote me a letter. Nobody brought me anything. Absolutely nothing. I was the most well-behaved cousin, and still I got treated like I was the worst. This is also the same grandmother that when I got pregnant really young, she told me that I shouldn't have a baby that young because she had my mother when she was 15 or 16, and that she always regretted it, and that she wished she would have gave my mother up for adoption or had an abortion. She basically talked me into having an abortion, and then drove me to Charleston, West Virginia to have the abortion. And then after I had it, they continued to tell me I shouldn't grieve, wasn't allowed to feel anything, and that I was a baby killer. Basically, for years upon years, they found any way possible to torment me emotionally and mentally, and then would make me out to be the bad guy. And it wasn't just those two. It wasn't just the two that I'm no contact with. It was pretty much that entire side of the family. I am in some limited contact with some of them. Some of them I've been no contact with for 5 years.